Hello, my friends. So today I'd like to start the car first. Today I'd like to make a video commenting on a video that Varg recently did on memory and reincarnation. Because Varg, if you're watching this, I agree with what you're saying in a poetic way, in a poetic sense. I think that there is reality to this concept of ancestral memory and reincarnation, but I think that the way that we talk about it, in your context, it's perfect. I mean, you talk about memory being stored in the spirit and not in like the physical brain. You talk about how walking in shapes is really what causes the manifestation of your ancestral spirit and whatnot. And those ideas, I think, are very rich, and I think that they have a great deal of significance to them that we need to unpack more, and that we need to sort of have more appreciation for. But I want to take a very literalist interpretation, or a literalist understanding of this entire issue, and try to sort of present for you guys a physical, rational, literal understanding of what's happening when we talk about the concepts of ancestral memory or reincarnation. Okay, so the first thing that I want to address is this idea of, or the question of, where is memory stored? Because this is something that Varg led with this in his video about the question of science trying to figure out where in the brain memories are stored and how they're stored, and that science really doesn't have a clear answer for this. And that's, in my estimation, it is a question that is unanswerable because of the irrational language used to describe the phenomenon in question. And what I mean by that is we're using the language of physical objects. Storage is something that can only be done with physical objects. In a literal sense, I mean. The literal, clearest, rational, most unambiguous sense of the word storage is I can store this 5-hour energy that I just drank in my glove compartment, right? I can store blankets in my trunk. I can store my phone in my pocket, right? Storage is the idea of placing one object, one physical object, and by object, I mean a very particular sense of the word object, in the most physical, literal, clear sense of that which has shape and location, a physical presence. So you could store one object inside of another, right? You could store gold coins in the bank, right, if I was Jewish. But that is the literal sense of the word storage. So we get into confusion when we start talking about storing memory, because memory is not a physical object. There is no physical object that you can point to that we name memory. It just doesn't exist. When we talk about what physically exists in the brain, we can speak of neurons. We could speak of chemicals, electrolytes, fluids, synapses, and whatnot. Those are the physical things that are stored in the brain. But when you start talking about memory, the question becomes, is memory something like a neuron? Is memory something like my blankets that I store in the trunk? Is it a physical object that we're storing inside of your brain? No. That's not how we should think of memory. It doesn't get stored. Same thing with a good analogy, I think, would be when you look at a record, one of those vinyl discs. Is a song stored upon the vinyl? No. The vinyl it's got like a carved surface, which when you spin it at a certain speed and you have a needle dragging along the surface, the interaction between the needle and the record causes a sound. And so there's no song that is stored upon the record. It's just that the record is made in such a way that when it interacts with something else, like a record player, it will produce music, right? It's the same thing with computers or CDs or whatnot. When I am surfing on the internet and I find a meme that I enjoy and I save it into my highly organized meme folder, I'm not adding anything physical. I'm not storing anything in a literal sense on my computer. What's happening is a complex system of electronics is causing differences in magnetic components and electric components to move in different ways, and to cause the magnetic fields to move at different speeds or intensities, or it's something that's not, you're not actually adding anything physical to your machine. You can't open up your computer and find the memes on your hard drive because they don't exist there. It's not a thing that's physically being stored, right? So this is the same with memory. Memory is not a thing that could be stored. It's a complex interplay between the physical things within your brain. And the interplay, the way in which the brain acts is determined by the minute details of the architecture of the brain. And those minute details are, I think, inheritable. So this takes us kind of to the reincarnation and ancestral memory thing, right? Why does a thing act in a certain way? Why does anything act in a certain way? Why does a ball roll down a hill, but a box will slide or tumble down a hill? Why do they act in different ways? They act in different ways because they have different architecture, because they have different structural details which cause it to act in a certain way. I like to use the example too of like Velcro, right? Why does Velcro stick together? It's because one side has hooks and the other side has loops. And when you bring hooks and loops into contact with one another, they tend to hold, right? So this applies to ancestral memory or reincarnation in a similar way, right? So if no matter what I create, no matter what material I'm using, if I create something where one side has hooks and the other side have loops, has loops, they're going to tend to pull on each other and hold to each other, fasten to each other. So by by recreating this architecture, the same basic patterns of behavior will occur. If I go back to the record thing, if I take a record and I create it with the same physical structure, I can mass produce millions and millions of records that will play the same tunes. Because the recreation of the architecture is going to correspond to a recreation of the way in which it behaves, the way in which it acts and relates to its environment. I think it's very similar with humans. When two humans reproduce, God, this intersection's a shit show. When two humans reproduce, their offspring has the offspring inherits the structural details. The most minute details are recreated in the offspring. So the offspring tend to act and behave in the same way as the parents, because you're creating another thing. It's like creating another record with the same structure, with the same imprint on top, and they're bound to act the same way. It's like it's function following from form, and there is a mechanistic side to these things, and there is a physical side to these things, and which is why I really like the phrase walking in shapes, because that to me encapsulates exactly what I'm saying. If you are the same shape, and I don't just mean external shape, I mean the integral structure, the fibers of your soul, of your being, the very detailed and immeasurably complex inner structure of yourself, as well as the external structure of yourself. They come with a certain type of characteristics. They come with a certain set of qualities. Same way, if I carve a ball, no matter how many, no matter where I am, no matter what time it is, what period in history it is, if I carve a ball, it's going to act like every other ball throughout history. Same thing with humans. So, walking in shapes, it's like, that's what I think of when I hear walking in shapes, is the same thing I think of when I think of Velcro. We are a certain shape. We have a certain complex inner architecture that goes right down to like the way our neurons are shaped, our synapses are shaped, our cells, our DNA. And this architecture causes us to behave in certain ways. And because we have this unbroken chain of lineage going all the way back to our most ancient ancestors, we share that, and so we share their behavior, their characteristics. And it's not perfect, obviously, because we can change ourselves and we can rearrange our shape, for lack of a better phrase. But this is an incomplete video, but I hope you guys got something out of it. This is how I think about concepts, and this is how I think about, just ideas in general. Everything has to be defined. We need to understand how this translates literally into reality. So, thank you for watching.